May 15th, 2019, Joey Cleveland. We're going to be doing a lot of the things you were singing about in that opener. This is a big show on a big week here on That's What G Said. Thank you for joining us again. Let's go through a little rundown today. We're going to have the NBA lottery discussion, NBA recaps of games won from both of the conference finals, Game of Thrones recap, episode 5 predictions for the final episode ever of Game of Thrones, WWE Money in the Bank predictions. This weekend is the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. And then Pimlico Friday, we will talk races 7 through 13 at Pimlico on Friday. Then Saturday, we'll have a full card preview coming up for you on Saturday with all of the undercard races for the Preakness, and the Preakness itself. We'll get into all of those horses. So no messing around today. We're going to bounce from topic to topic to topic, and you know how we begin. On this day, May the 15th, what happened on this day? German astronomer Johannes Kepler discovers the third of his 3 planetary laws, his harmonics law. National Women's Suffrage Association forms in New York, founded by Susan B. Anthony. One of the first ever McDonald's restaurants was opened in San Bernardino in 1940. That was 1869. The National Women's Suffrage Association, 1618, German astronomer Johannes Kepler. 1914, Henriette Rabat's opera Moraf Sauveterre de Care premieres in Paris. Always got to throw one of the international ones in there. May 15th, 2010, Jessica Watson at age 16 becomes the youngest person to sail solo, nonstop, and unassisted around the world. How about Mickey Mouse makes his first ever appearance, and it was in silent film, Plain Crazy, on May the 15th, 1928. I always remember hearing that Mickey Mouse, the first time he ever showed up was in Steamboat Willie, but Plain Crazy was a short film directed by Walt Disney, and it was actually the first creation of Mickey Mouse, but it was a silent film, and it was not well received. It did not get picked up by a distributor. And so later on that year, they released Mickey Mouse in a sound cartoon called Steamboat Willie. So Plain Crazy was actually the first time Mickey Mouse showed up. And James Puckle, London lawyer, patents the world's first machine gun back in 1718 on May the 15th. Emily Dickinson passed away on this day in 1886. Famous birthdays: George Brett, Emmett Smith, Ray Lewis, Andy Murray. On this day, I'm going to give a shout out to some of you who have been reaching out on social media, Twitter, Facebook. Let's Get Social, Instagram. Always love to hear from you out there. Call to Post Racing. Nice to hear from the guys at Call to Post Racing. Make sure to get to calltopost.com. Check everything out over there. I am a part of the Slack channel on calltopost.com. We are always talking different wagers, different things happening in racing. Currently in the middle of a handicapping contest. So if you want to get involved, go to calltopost.com and you can become a member there. A couple questions from the Call to Post guys. It says, which Stark does Dany kill first since she let out of the crazy box? Well, spoiler alert, if you haven't mentioned it yet, we will be talking Game of Thrones throughout the episode. So spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Who does Dany kill first is what Call to Post Race was asking. Let's see. Is Dany gonna get... I think she might get Arya. I feel like Sansa's gonna be around, though, at the end. And any chance Zion goes back to Duke since he hasn't hired an agent? Maybe. I heard some rumblings that he may not want to go to New Orleans, but I can't imagine so. You know, you have to take this opportunity right now. And that situation might not be bad. whether or not they keep Anthony Davis, whether they make the trade. Discuss that in just a bit when we get into the lottery. And another one from Call to Post, does Warville run the same race that he did in the Derby from the one hole from a pace perspective? I wonder when we get into the Preakness. I'll have a full Preakness podcast coming out on Thursday at some point on the 16th, 17th, either about a day and a half before the Preakness. We'll go through all those races. I think he'll be forwardly placed. That's when he runs his best races, and they wanted to get to the lead in the Derby. I don't know if they necessarily are going to send, but I'd imagine forwardly placed, and maybe you don't want to have to worry about being behind horses again, so maybe they do try to get a little aggressive with him. Nice to hear from Chris Mondragon out there. Mondragon, Chris, great to hear from you. Remember, folks, anytime you see on Twitter, it's me, Gino B. We'll post one of these. If you have a question, a comment, a prediction that you want to share. Bernie Shrem said, I picked Improbable all year. I've been disappointed. However, if he's ever going to win, this is the one. So go Improbable. And he said, as for Game of Thrones, I read every book as soon as it came out. Most of the show I thought was okay, or I was okay with, but the season just sucks. Not a fan of the final season. We get a lot of that. A lot of people aren't a big fan of this final season of Game of Thrones. Nice to hear from Ron Grover again. Said he'll be waiting until Preakness Saturday to bet, but he may go down to his local track, Retama Park, on Friday night. Joe Killen, Joey Q. Say not sure yet about Pimlico, but the NBA lottery setup was better than I expected. Maybe tanking will stop finally. I agree, and not just because the Lakers moved up, but if the goal is to try to get teams from stop to tank, because the difference between being the 5th, 6th, 8th, 10th team and the first team isn't that much, as we saw a lot of movement in the lottery, and then maybe I think it is the right play there. So great to hear from Joe. We'll go through a lot of the predictions for the Preakness on the Preakness show. So if you're out there, you see one of the posts on social media, post with your selection, and I'll roll through all the selections for everyone on the Preakness podcast. So make sure to get through those. NBA lottery. So the lottery, there was a lot of movement this year, right? Before the lottery, the Knicks, the Cavs, the Suns, the Bulls, and the Hawks, they were the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams with the best opportunity to get the number 1 overall pick. They were the worst teams in order from 1 through 5. The way it ended up, the Pelicans with the 1, Memphis Grizzlies with the 2, the Knicks with the 3, the Lakers with the 4, the Cavs with the 5s. So some of the overall thoughts from this. First of all, number 1 with the Pelicans, Anthony Davis. Now, does he stay? Zion is there. Not a bad team around him. But does he just want to get out? Has that bridge been burned? And did he go a little too far last year, sitting out the games, wearing the shirt, I'm out of here, all this? And the reports are that he still wants to leave. What a package that would be with Zion and AD, though, right? Putting those two together just from an athleticism standpoint. I will say I'm not as high on Zion as everybody else is. I think he might be a little bit of a tweener. I don't think he's going to be a complete bust, but I don't think he's going to be an absolute game changer. I really don't. He needs to improve his shooting a little bit. He's very young, obviously. He needs to improve his free throws. So for me to be a guy that is going to have a franchise built around him and is going to be billed as a savior, that's going to be a lot to ask from Zion. With David Griffin in charge in New Orleans, the Pelicans are they more or less likely to trade with the Lakers because of Griffin's relationship with LeBron, Clutch? Is he going to help them? Is he going to be a little more stubborn and not want to help this team? I know he's been very high on some of the Lakers' young pieces. In particular, I heard him talking about Brandon Ingram before, but the issues out there now with Brandon Ingram are his health. He had the blood clot. Reportedly, everything is fine, but I don't know what his value will be like until people get the opportunity to watch him play a little bit, or there is some real announcement, or, honestly, I think he just has to play in order for him to kind of get some of that value back. And, now the reports are that they don't want to trade with the Lakers. I have such a tough time believing any reports around anything to do with the Lakers just because, and I'm talking about ones that are positive or negative for the Lakers, for them or against them, because there's so many people out there now that have their own agendas when they're reporting things. I think on the national level, you see Woj, Brian Windhorst, some of them, they are reporting things, and maybe because they were slighted by LeBron or slighted by the Lakers, they release information that may lead people to think one way. And then maybe some of the Laker reporters or people covering the Lakers who have inside sources there are getting not fed information, but told something to direct the narrative a different way. So with LeBron, who has so much coverage around him and he's so dramatic, positive or negative, right? And the Lakers, you put LeBron plus the Lakers, there's so much coverage around everything that it's just hard to know what is real, what's not, what's happening, what's being reported. So now I can't really believe anything until I really see what's happened. The Celtics, the Lakers, the Knicks, the Clippers are all teams possibly interested in dealing with the Pelicans to try to get Anthony Davis. Who has the best package of them? The 2 pick, Memphis. Now, this opens up a couple things because the Memphis has already really made it known that they like Ja Morant, point guard. Now that puts Mike Conley on the table. There's a couple years left in his deal, big contract remaining, but he is a very good point guard who could help push a team over the top. Is a team like the Lakers thinking about maybe making a trade for Mike Conley if they can't, have any success with other free agents? Does that have too much overlap with Lonzo there? Can Lonzo and Conley play next to each other? Do they care really about Lonzo, even the Lakers? Who knows? With the 3 pick, the Knicks, maybe Barrett. But the questions with the Knicks now are KD. Is Durant going to go there? Everyone's saying yes. Is Kyrie going to join KD there? Everyone's saying yes. And are they trying to trade for AD? Or does KD just want that to be his team? Now the Lakers, they moved up from 11 to 4. And this is a big asset for the Lakers to use in a trade. Even if not for AD, maybe a Bradley Beal, someone like that. This is finally something positive now for the Lakers. I cannot see them keeping this pick. I think this will be used in some way, shape, or form in a trade as an asset. I like the fact that now the Lakers have a coach. They're getting their staff in place. They got a little positive energy with this. Now, hopefully, all of the negative dark clouds are not going to go away. But the last couple things that have happened now, at least, there's not a lot of as much uncertainty out there. Should be a press conference coming up at the beginning of the week. Hopefully that goes well when they announce Frank Vogel. It'll be the first time that someone in the Lakers organization has talked since Magic stepped down. I think the Cavs, the Suns, the Bulls, Atlanta, that was big losses for all of them, right? The Cavs, they were right in line, you thought, for a number 1 pick. They dropped down to 5. The Suns were in the top 3. They dropped down to 6. The Bulls were in the top 5. They dropped down to 7. And then the Hawks, whose 2 selections were 5 and 9, they end up dropping down to 8 and 10. So, not the best lottery on paper for the Cavs, the Suns, the Bulls, and Atlanta, and really who knows with the Knicks dropping to the 3rd. They didn't get Zion, but I don't think they're in terrible shape there with the 3. NBA game 1s in both of the conference finals. We saw the West first with the Warriors and the Blazers, and then we saw the East just earlier this evening, a couple hours before I recorded this podcast, where the Milwaukee Bucks were able to come back and take care of Toronto Raptors in Game 1. So the 1 seeds in both the conferences take care of Game 1s. Let's start in the West. Final was 116-94. And Portland was way too laxed on D, in particular on Steph Curry. He had 9 threes, 36 points. Lillard even mentioned after the game that it felt like Steph was taking practice shots you'd make in practice, wide open. Curry was 12 for 23 overall. And Lillard and McCollum combined were only 11 for 31. Then you get 26 points from Clay. the Blazers actually got solid contributions from Mo Harkless, who had 17 points and 3 blocks. He shot the ball well. Rodney Hood, who's continued to play well, he had 17 points. He was good getting to the free throw line. He shot well, 4 of 8. Draymond did Draymond things for Golden State, but when you look on paper, in Portland, they were only down 6 going into the fourth quarter. They were close. They're getting solid contributions from a couple of the role players, which they need. They just looked a little tired. They did not get enough from Lillard and McCollum, and we've seen with this Portland team, they need Lillard and McCollum to have big games, at least one of them to be able to carry them to have enough scoring. Draymond, 12 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks, and 2 steals. And, after that 7-game series, having to win on the road in Game 7, plus a 4 overtime game in that series, Portland just, I think, was a little gassed, and Golden State had a few extra days off in between to rest up and get ready for this. Warriors up 6 going into the fourth, never less than that, just really open things up in the fourth quarter. So Portland now, can they come back and steal Game 2? Kevin Durant's going to get an MRI on Thursday. We'll know if Kevin Durant will be ready to play Game 2 or Game 3. I'd imagine they're going to say no to Game 2. They'll probably see, and if Golden State wins Game 2, they'll probably give him another till Game 3. I think he's probably out until they lose, right? Why bring him back a little early? I think you wait until you need him. Durant possibly back in the next few games. Over to the East. Let's go through the game tonight. It was Milwaukee-Toronto, and Toronto was up by 11 at the end of 1. Early in the second quarter, the difference in the game was that Toronto was 8 for 18 from 3, and Milwaukee was 4 for 18 from 3. Middleton, Mirotic, Bledsoe, Brook Lopez, Hill, and Connaughton combined 0 for 11 to start. So when you're getting that type of production early on from some of your better three-point shooters, you're likely going to be down double digits, and they're lucky that it wasn't more. But in the second quarter, Milwaukee made a little run. Brook Lopez, they went on a 12-2 run. Brook Lopez had 7 of those points, and he had 11 points with 6 minutes and 28 seconds left in the half. Lowry had 3 threes early on after just shooting 28% from 3 in the playoffs. Malcolm Brogdon, who just returned from an injury, comes back and gives them some really good minutes early on. Brogdon talked about how he wants to move the ball and he wants to provide like a spark plug off the bench. In 12 minutes in the first half, he had 11 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds, and a plus-minus of +6. Kawhi with a quiet 15 in the first half. In the third quarter, back and forth, Toronto still with the advantage, but Milwaukee cuts it to 76-72. They're down 4 with 2:30 left in the third quarter. A big 3 by Siakam to end the quarter. Toronto was up by 7. Milwaukee takes an 84-83 lead with 9:56 left. It was their first lead since 8-6 in the first quarter. Then Lowry comes right back with a big answer. This is 5th three-pointer. The Bucks take the lead 91-88 on Middleton's first three-pointer of the game with just under 2 minutes left. 104-100 Milwaukee, and Brook Lopez ballin'. Brook Lopez was really the difference in the game tonight, as he had a couple spurts where he really got hot and was able to carry the team offensively. He ended up with 4 three-pointers at 29 points, 11 rebounds, 4 blocks, and 2 assists. And this is Brook Lopez, who I really loved as a Laker. He's great in this day and age, as he is a big now that can shoot the 3. He can play a little defense when you have to. He can stretch the floor. You can go to him in the post if need be. You don't do it often, but he's a guy that can get a bucket and can really score. People forget he's been a top-level scorer in this league for a while. Only makes $3.3 million a year. That's a great get for the Bucks, and part of the reason why Milwaukee is at such an excellent year. Big shout-out to Eric. Eric, who's a big Bucks fan. Talked to Eric on Twitter. Very good gambler. He is one to follow. Let me get Eric's info. Had some good interactions earlier today. And what I like about Eric is we don't always agree on everything. We go back and forth. On Twitter, give Eric a follow at etoft21. So you'll see me interacting with Eric quite a bit. Good gambler, always talking sports, always talking whatever side of the game or whatever line he thinks is good. And he's been very high on the Bucks, so every time they play well, I know he's got a couple futures on them to, I think, win the whole thing and to win the Eastern Conference. So best of luck, Eric, there. Let's move on over. Make the segment transition into Game of Thrones. Big spoilers, folks. Game of Thrones talk coming up now. If you haven't watched the 5th episode of Season 8 of Game of Thrones, you want to skip past this, or if you're just not really into Game of Thrones, then you can skip on past this to the WWE portion. Next, we'll preview Money in the Bank, and then we'll close things out with races 7 through 13 on Friday from Pimlico. There are some good wagering options there on Friday. Game of Thrones. We open up episode 5 of season 8 with Varys. He's writing a letter to let everyone know about Jon's true identity, and he's using a little girl to send out messages. She knows she's kind of being watched. She's delivering some of these. Daenerys has not left her chamber for days. She won't eat, she won't sleep after seeing her friend Missandei executed right in front of her. She won't see anyone. Varys speaking to Jon, and he mentions a quote, "Every time a Targaryen is born and the gods toss a coin and the world holds its breath," as he is wondering how Daenerys is going to react to all of the recent tragedy around her. He says to Jon, "We both know what she's about to do." And he also tells Jon he thinks he should be the true ruler. Jon disagrees and says that Daenerys is his queen. We then see Tyrion talking to Daenerys, and she's upset that Tyrion and Jon told other people about Jon's true legacy. Tyrion mentions that it was Varys who's actually getting ready to turn on Daenerys. See a sad scene when Varys is about to get executed. Tyrion walks up and tells him, "It was me." And Varys looks at his friend, a friend that he's saved Tyrion's life. He says, "I hope I deserved it. I hope I was wrong. Goodbye, old friend." We'll find out shortly that, in fact, Varys was not wrong. Unfortunately, he was right. And Varys always was true to his goal, no matter what. Like him or not, whoever side he was on, he wanted what was best for the realm. Quickly, Dracarys blows Varys away. The dragon, impeccable control on that dragon fire, right? Able to just rein it in, pinpoint accuracy with the dragon fire. Dany has a moment with Grey Worm where they're kind of memorializing Missandei, one of her last possessions. He burns it, and now as Grey Worm guards Dany, you can see a change in Grey Worm. He's not the man who has become a little emotional, fallen in love. He's back to that stoic soldier, just obey, do what he's told. He leaves the room as Jon comes in to speak to Dany. Now this is an interesting scene. We see Dany continue to blame Sansa. There's multiple times in the episode where she said it was Sansa's fault. Sansa was planning these things. She wanted this to get around. Sansa doesn't like me. She doesn't want me to rule. And Daenerys says, "I don't have love here. I only have fear." She then goes to kiss Jon. He tells her he loves her. And they start to kiss, but then he stops. You could tell that he's not really into what's going on. Now, Daenerys has lost someone that she loves. He's still there, but he's not in love with her anymore. He says that she will always be his queen, and she looks at him and says, "Fear it is." And you can see at that moment when the loss is just a little too much for Daenerys, and she is just getting ready to snap. She just lost a man that she loved. She has already lost 2 of her dragons, 2 of her children. Jorah, Missandei, like him or not, Varys, who is one of her advisors, many of the Dothraki, the Unsullied. She found out Jon is the true heir, and now he doesn't love her. He betrayed her trust. All she really has is her dragon, Grey Worm, and Tyrion, and not even really Tyrion. You can tell the frustration that's seeping in, and she is just about set to have a one-on-one with Tyrion the dragon, so to speak. Tyrion talks to Dany. It's as they discuss the plan to attack King's Landing. It's Tyrion and Grey Worm and Dany discussing the plans. Tyrion mentions that these are people that they're there to save. They're not there to kill innocent people. Get Cersei, do whatever they have to do, but they're not there to try to burn this whole city alive. And he tells her that when they ring the bells, that means they surrender. And she agrees that when they hear the bells ringing, that means their surrender, and that means that they have won, and no need to blow the city away. Daenerys then tells Tyrion that his brother Jaime has been captured as he was going back to Cersei. Another mistake that Tyrion made, as Jaime has flipped, and his loyalty, as Daenerys had expected, has been all along with Cersei. Tyrion then sneaks in to see Jaime. He tells the guards to let him in, as he is the hand of the queen. And we have a scene where Jaime and Tyrion have a very powerful embrace and really a goodbye, as Jaime has saved Tyrion previously, and now Tyrion able to return the favor. Jaime's been one of the only people throughout Tyrion's life who's ever really been there for him. So whether or not he's a bad guy as far as Tyrion is concerned, he really has been a pretty good brother for the most part. We see Arya and the Hound. They walk right past the guards as they say they're going to kill Cersei. And then we see Euron and the Iron Fleet. They're on the water. We see the citizens of King's Landing. They're starting to scramble. They're starting to hide. They want to leave because war is upon them. You can feel it. Arya and the Hound are now in King's Landing. Jaime is now in King's Landing. Tyrion reminds Jon before the battle starts, the ringing of the bells. Remember, that means that they have surrendered. Chaos and hysteria all over the city as the armies are waiting for their instructions. We see Daenerys and Dracarys together. They come out of the clouds. Much better tactics this time, and they destroy the Iron Fleet quickly. And then they come from behind to wipe out the Golden Company, and that begins the battle on the land. Grey Worm, you could see that different look in his eye. He's killing with the purpose and the invade the city. Dracarys, the dragon, is just destroying everything, breathing fire everywhere. All the weapons are destroyed. The scorpions that they were using as to shoot at the dragons, the weapons they had used to kill the dragons, they're gone. The Iron Fleet is burning. The gates have been breached. And Qyburn, hand of the queen, he's trying to tell Cersei, but she will not listen. She will not give up. She is still a little delusional and thinks she's going to win this war. We see a standoff between the soldiers and the army in King's Landing, and the army in King's Landing, they give up. They put down their weapons, they surrender, and they ring the bells. So it should be peace. Everything's done, right? Surrender. It's all good? Well, no. Now, Dany hears the bells. She hears them being rung, and she sits on the dragon, on Dracarys, and she decides against peace. She just burns the city to the ground. And as she starts to burn the city to the ground, Grey Worm sees the fire. He thinks that means to attack. He starts to attack, and now the war on foot is back again after some of the army had already surrendered. They'd thrown their weapons down. So now we see Jon trying to stop the battle, and you see Jon and Tyrion, they're just devastated by Dany's actions as she is just burning people, millions of people, buildings, the entire city down. They did not need to kill all of these innocent people, and Jon ends up killing one of his own men who's in the midst of battle and trying to have his way with and rape a woman. He's in the middle about to do that. Jon ends up killing him. And we then see Dany and Dracarys the dragon just going up and down, back and forth, every part of the city, just burning everything alive. Jaime, in his attempts to sneak into the city, he runs into Euron, and Euron's swimming back to shore. He's almost dead after the interactions in the ocean with the dragons. And Euron mentions to Jaime that he's been with Cersei. They fight. Jaime ends up using his steel-plated hand to get the better of Euron. And as the Hound and Arya are making their way to find Cersei in the mountain, the city is falling all around, fire everywhere, ruins, burning, they're dodging things from the sky, debris. He tells Arya to leave. He said, this is not the life you want. This is not what you need. You're not going to make it out of here alive. He knows her risking her life is not worth it to go kill Cersei because Cersei's already dead. And she thanks him, and she leaves. And then we see the Hound run into his brother, the Mountain. Cersei is with the Mountain and with Qyburn. Qyburn tries to talk the Mountain out of the battle, the Clegane Bowl, and the Mountain wants nothing. He picks up Qyburn, throws him. Qyburn's dead. Boom. Now Cersei's alone. She runs off, and we get Clegane Bowl. One of the scenes that I have been most anticipating, I think, from all of Game of Thrones. I love the Hound. He's one of my favorite characters. And we hoped that the Hound would get his opportunity to kill his brother. He had told him previously, you know how you're going to go, brother. I'm coming for you. And this is an epic battle between brothers. It's a destined epic battle. Fire all over the city. The city's falling apart. The Hound tries to kill him, stabs him a few times, does nothing to the Mountain. And in a last-stitch effort, he knows what he needs to do. He runs. He tackles his brother, the Mountain, through a wall. And they both fall to their deaths in the fire. So the Hound, who's always afraid of fire, of course, he dies by fire, falling into it. But he's able to do what he always wanted and get the better of his brother. They go out together, the Clegane Bowl. This was well received, probably one of the more well received parts of the episode. Lots of negative feedback from what I've been reading and hearing on social media. And we see Jaime and Cersei, they find each other. And now the episode shifts to Arya's perspective as Arya's trying to get out of the city. And I was listening to the writers talk about this after the episode. They said they really wanted to put it from Arya's perspective because she's one of the characters we care about most. And it makes you a little bit more invested than if you're just watching extras and people you don't know, characters that you've never seen running through. So from Arya's perspective, I think it does make you get a little more into what's happening. She's scared, really. We haven't seen Arya scared for a while, right? She seemed like she's been above this, but this is one of the first times in a while where Arya is truly scared. She's running, dodging, falling objects, fire, smoke, bodies. I mean, we saw her scared against the White Walkers, obviously, but she's not been scared often. This is a situation that she's trained for and that she's prepped for, though. We see some major characters die and go out, and the Hound by fire, the irony there, but doing what he always wanted, killing his brother. And then Jaime and Cersei, we see them. They find each other, they embrace, and then they end up finding that their way out is blocked. And they look at each other, and Jaime knows they're going to die as everything around them is falling apart. And Jaime says, nothing else matters, only us, what they have said to each other many times throughout the series. They get killed. And it's a little unfortunate because we never get to see somebody really kill Cersei, right? We always wanted to see who was going to be the one to kill Cersei. I thought it would be Arya. She never gets to kill Cersei. Arya does try to lead some people out to safety, but most of them get trampled and killed right in front of her. Jaime and Cersei find that their way out is blocked, and when Arya gets out alive, and that's the episode. That's episode 5. Here are some of the major kind of points and questions and topics I've seen after. Has the pacing of this show changed? Yeah, absolutely, right? The first 6 seasons that were based on what was happening in the books, they were very slow paced, and a lot of our major characters weren't interacting with each other. They were set up in different places. We knew at one point they would all come together and interact with each other, but now when they're all together, things have to happen, right? It's inevitable. We don't get to see long journeys places anymore because it's sped up. This is the final season. So I don't know what else they were supposed to do, because you can't have things drag out a lot if there's only a season left, right? If I would have loved for another season or 2. I'm upset with some things, or I guess disappointed, frustrated. No one gets to kill Cersei. That was one of my big ones. But now what happens? Final episode. Is it going to be Jon and the Starks versus Dany, Grey Worm? What about the army? Is the army going to be split? Are they going to follow Jon? Are they going to follow Dany? And with their dragon? Who fights for which side? And now Tyrion. He's lost his brother, his sister, his best friend Varys due to Dany. How can he be faithful to her? Will he continue to be, or will he see what happened now and like Jon? I think Dany has gone full Mad Queen now, and I think this battle has turned, and it will. One of the predictions that I had throughout was I feel like it's going to end up with Sansa in a major place of power in some way, shape, or form. I don't think it's going to be as simple as Jon ruling at the end. I do feel like it might be Sansa. So whether that means Jon ends up dying or Jon turns it down, whatever it is, I'm expecting Sansa around. Maybe Sansa and Tyrion together at the end. That's a prediction there. Final episode of Game of Thrones. A little sad, right? And there's a show that you've been watching for a while that you invested so much time in. A little sad when they end. Let's go through WWE Money in the Bank coming up this weekend. It will be on Sunday, May the 19th. Money in the Bank. 11 matches. Before we get into the card, it's been a little bit of a lull in WWE right now. Generally, after WrestleMania, it happens a bit, but it's not the matches, it's not the athletes, it's not the performers, it's just the storylines. They've been lacking. All-time low ratings right now. No consistency with who's on what show. Superstar shakeup. We didn't know who was where. Now there's a new wild card rule where wrestlers are bouncing back between Monday Night Raw and Tuesday Night SmackDown back and forth. Let's go through the Money in the Bank match card, 11 matches. And the Money in the Bank matches could play into the women's title, I think. I don't know if they'll play into the men's title, but I feel like they'll play into the women's title. Start from the bottom going up. Cruiserweight title, Tony Nese versus Arya Daivari. I haven't been watching 205 Live as much, honestly. Arya Daivari's getting a good heel push right now. I think Tony Nese wins this, likely on the kickoff show. The women's tag team titles, the Iconics versus Asuka and Kairi Sane. Asuka and Kairi are great. Both are women's champion type, and I can't wait till Kairi gets her singles push. I would love to see Kairi Becky, Kairi Charlotte, Kairi Sasha if she's around, Bayley, Asuka Kairi, the prediction in that one. Daniel Bryan and Rowan versus the Usos for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. D. Bryan and Rowan just got it. I think they're going to hold on to it for a little while and maybe try to spice up the tag team division a little bit, because I think the Usos are back on Raw, actually, so they'll be bouncing back there, most likely. Samoa Joe versus Rey Mysterio Jr. for the United States Championship. If we can get 15 minutes out of this match, it could be excellent. I hope they're not shortchanged. The storyline going on with Rey Mysterio's son. I feel like Joe wins this. Some sort of a heel, maybe by DQ, something involving Rey Mysterio's son. at some point, I feel like Rey is going to win this U.S. title with his son playing a part in the storyline. Does he turn back? Or I don't know if it's quite yet, though. Joe, the prediction for the U.S. title. The Miz, one of my all-time favorites, versus Shane McMahon in a steel cage. The Miz babyface turn is going a little bit better than I thought. You can see they're high on the Miz, and they're wanting him to go babyface right now for a while and become a good guy, as they've been giving him a lot of ring time with Roman Reigns, sharing the ring with Roman Reigns against some of the other heels. And anytime you're in a program with Shane McMahon, you know that the company thinks pretty highly of you. I think The Miz is going to win this one after he lost the first one to Shane, and I think Miz wins this in the steel cage. Roman versus Elias. I would just be shocked if Elias won here. This has to be an easy win for Roman. I think they're giving him a little while to get back into shape and before they throw him back into the title picture. The women's Money in the Bank match. Alexa Bliss, Naomi, Natalya, Dana Brooke, Bayley, Ember Moon, Mandy Rose, Carmella. Should be a fine group. You'll get Naomi do something very athletic. Ember Moon, capable. Bayley, also capable. And then you have a ring general like Natty in there to hold things down. Alexa, Dana, Mandy, Carmella. Not worried about them, but this is a big stage for them. Let's see how they step up to the plate here. They've been capable in big spots before, and I've been excited with Dana Brooke, and I've heard positive things about Dana Brooke, that she's a very hard worker and she wants to get better. She wants to learn. So getting an opportunity to be in a spot like this could only help her. I think, so wishing the best in that one. Bayley is the selection. I think Bayley wins this. I think wouldn't be surprised if Bayley wins this and immediately cashes in on Becky Lynch later in the night. I think Becky winning the women's Money in the Bank. Men's Money in the Bank. Ricochet, Drew McIntyre, Finn Balor, Baron Corbin, Ali, Andrade, Sami Zayn, and Randy Orton. Really, any of these would be fun, right? Any but Randy Orton, just because we've seen Randy Orton so many times in the title picture. But Ricochet, Drew McIntyre, Finn Balor, Baron Corbin, even Corbin, Ali, Andrade, Sami Zayn. That's a new world title contender if they win the Money in the Bank. That's someone who's not generally in the main event getting an opportunity to be in the main event. That's what Money in the Bank used to be. I like this grouping for that reason, and I'm hoping it's just anyone but Orton. I'm picking Sami Zayn. His new heel turn, he is an extension of Vince. They said Vince loves working with him on the promos because a lot of what Sami Zayn is saying is coming from the mouth and the head of Vince McMahon. Sami the pick in the men's Money in the Bank. SmackDown, the women's championships. Well, there's two of them, and it's Becky facing Lacey Evans, and then Becky facing Charlotte. I think what happens is, whether they have the matches back to back, I'm predicting that. I think they have the Raw women's match. Becky wins. She beats Lacey. Lacey's done a good job so far. She has a presence, but she's not quite ready. She's had no big NXT matches even, really. And now she's going to be in a big opportunity on a big stage here against Becky. But I'm predicting Becky beats Lacey. Then Becky beats Charlotte in a roll-up, like a non-definitive win against Charlotte. After the match, Charlotte attacks Becky, beats her down. Becky's tired because she just had 2 matches. She is barely able to get up. Here comes Bayley, who had just won the Money in the Bank briefcase earlier in the night. Bayley cashes it in. Now the fans don't know what to do. They're going to turn on Bayley because they like Becky, and I think Bayley kind of has a heel turn coming up, and maybe Bayley wins. She takes the belt over to SmackDown, and then what happens with Sasha Banks? If Sasha's around, you can do something with Sasha and Bayley for the belt, and that will get kind of a new group of women contending for the championship over on SmackDown, and you keep Becky with the Raw Women's belt over on Monday Night Raw. WWE Championship, Kofi versus Kevin Owens. This is one of the matches that suffered a little bit. We saw Kevin Owens and he joined the New Day for a week or two, and then he turned on them. Kofi's been okay. This has been a fine feud. It just hasn't felt WWE Championship level. I hope they continue to go with Kofi, but I do not think they're going to. And I think Kevin Owens is going to win the title at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles for the Universal Championship. If this match gets 25 minutes or 30, it could be a match of the year contender. Two of the best wrestlers in the world. Two incredible in the ring. Great fan favorites. Hoping and very high expectations for this match. I hope that this one will deliver. Money in the Bank. Sunday. I'll be watching Money in the Bank. Be tweeting along. So please send me any of your thoughts. And anytime I'm watching any sports online, you see me tweeting, please give me do you know I agree with you? I don't agree with you. You're wrong there. Or check out this stat. Or check out this number. Friday, Pimlico. Let's do it. Let's get into the Friday Pimlico racing card. So get your past performances out. We're going to go to race number 7 on May the 17th, Pimlico. It is the Skip It Stakes. This is not a race where I would bet anything other than a pick 5 because the pick 5 starts in this 7th race. And honestly, won't spend a whole lot of time on this race because I think Shalone is just an absolute standout. That is the number 3. You'll notice her last race was in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. She was barely beaten. She ran really well that day. She looked like the winner. She opened up. 7 furlongs is just a little too far for her. 6.5 sometimes is even a little too far. I think one of our friends, Scott Shapiro, had money on Shalone, if I remember correctly, that day. So that was a tough beat for those who backed Shalone in the Breeders' Cup because she ran too good to lose. When you look at this race, there's nobody else that's ever been in a graded stakes here, and Shalone is a 5-time graded stakes mare. Or graded stakes placed mare. 5-time graded stakes placed mare. She grade 1 placed in the Breeders' Cup. In her last 2 attempts at graded stakes races, she was barely defeated. And this is the distance that she's best. 6 furlongs. This is a nice starting point for her first start of the year. She deserves to be the overwhelming favorite, and she is an absolute standout on paper. I'm not even going to really bother going through the rest of the field or anyone else, because if you're playing the race as a pick 5, I think you just single her and move on. Otherwise, this is a race where I would not play much more than that. Just not really worth it from a value-based standpoint. 8th race. The Miss Preakness. Start from the inside. Iva. She broke well. She tracked within 3 lengths. She always was traveling well back in February when she won at Turfway. Most recently, she had some trouble. It was a sloppy racetrack at Keeneland. I think it's fine to put a line through that race and give her an excuse for it. But she now draws the rail in a big field. This is a tough race. This is a really fun race to handicap. So you can make lots of cases in here. In a 6 furlong race, there's plenty of speed signed up, but there's a lot of horses who have the opportunity to maybe track just off. I feel like Iva's going to get in a little bit of trouble down on the inside, and she will be forced down there. So against her in this spot, Kofivi, she is one that I'll use in the bottom of the exotics. She was a step slow. She then rushed up from the inside. She did deal with a little pressure. She was able to look like she put that rival array at the top of the lane. Now, the one did continue to come on and try hard, but it was a pretty easy victory in the end for Kofivi. Now she cuts back from 6.5 to 6. But again, in a big field like this with lots of other speed, I'm concerned that she is going to be used up early on in a pace battle, or even if she's not as fast as some of the early on, she doesn't break alertly, she's farther back. Does she want to come from that far back and pass horses? I don't think so. Lone defeat was when Jaywalk was very good last year in the grade 1 Frazette. I don't want to take a short price on her, though. I have her picked 4th in here. Kofivi. Brunette Princess. She closed a ton of ground late last out. I mean, a ton of ground late. at Gulfstream Park. She hooked the Next Out Stakes winner 2 starts back in February. And she should get the setup. I have her picked right underneath Kofivi. I have her 5th in here. I would not talk you off her. I would use her in the bottom of some of the exotics. She should be a nice price. And I think if they choose a similar tactic, hopefully they do, because that was successful for them. And because there's a lot of other speed, and I don't think she's as quick as them. Could be on the scene late here, pick up a piece. Let's go to Please Flatter Me, the 4. Big speed here. I don't like the fact that you race in December, you're off for a couple months, you come back, and again, you're off a couple months. Layoff after a layoff immediately. She was pretty solid last out when she tried a mile for the first time. She was 3 deep of 4. She was just a length off, and she was always within striking range. She briefly had the lead at the top of the lane. She really did try hard, but she faded late. I think the mile was just a little too much, but another one who she hasn't shown that she wants to sit farther back than, about a length or so, and they're going to be cooking early on, and I think that's going to weaken her up, and I'm looking for horses that are going to be coming from off the pace in the top couple spots. Congrats Gal is just another one who 0 knocks on her ability. She's a 3-time winner. She's a stakes winner. She's never run a bad race. She was only beaten length and a half behind Jaywalk when Jaywalk was very, very good at Delaware. Just think making her first start of the year in a race with a lot of other speed, I'll be against her. I like Never Enough Time, the 6. Now, you'll say, it doesn't look like she has a lot of speed. I think she does, but when I watched her race, I don't think she needs to be on the lead because she was able to get to the front pretty easily without being asked. It wasn't like she set hard and going 21-1. And she really looked like she was just playing with that field. It was an easy victory. She was green late, but a huge win. I think there's more under the tank here. Never Enough Time. Big shot in here. I have Never Enough Time picked 3rd. Miss Imperial, 7. She moved to the lead. She opened up 3 lengths in the stretch, but she couldn't hold off a 36-1 shot, who was then defeated at Mahoning Valley. Workaholic ran 5th, beaten 16 furlongs at Mahoning Valley. And that runner was defeated at Mahoning Valley in an allowance race previous to beating Miss Imperial. So I just don't know how strong the race she comes out of was. And I thought she had every opportunity to win that race. So I'm against Miss Imperial in here. Tomlin, for a price, I wouldn't talk you off Tomlin. I like the fact that she's faced some very nice ones. You see, Bellafina, and you see Break Even. The problem I have with her, though, is I don't really know what her best running style is. Her victories have been when she was right on the lead. I don't think she's as fast as some of the others, so will she be able to close 5 or 6 lengths if she has to? That's why I'm a little concerned with the way the race shape is going to play out for Tomlin. Sue's Fortune has not raced since October. This barn does very good coming off the bench, but this is a tough spot to come off the bench. She is a grade 2 winner. Again, though, another one with that profile of wanting to be just on the lead. And I think coming off the bench likely will be a little fresh, probably a little headstrong, want to go early, and that could be her downfall in here. Top selection is the 10 Bye J. I'd be surprised if Bye J is 12-1 on the morning line. Honestly, I think anything over 5-1 is a very fair price on her. On March the 30th, that was when she hooked Break Even. She was actually favored in that race over Break Even. She got up to about 2nd in the lane, but she was chasing lone speed, and she faded. She had an easy excuse for backing up. And if you just put a line through that race, the rest of her form looks excellent. She's the type of filly who has positional speed, but I don't expect her to be caught up in the lead. I expect her to be 2 to 3, 4 lengths behind and fine with that. And I think she's going to come running. Half of her price on the morning line is fair. Anything over 5-1, we're going to bet a win wager on Bye J. So make sure tossed a few bucks on Bye Bye Jay, one of the best plays of the day. Really my best bet of the Friday card. No knocks on the 11 Fighting Mad. I think one of the top contenders for Bob Baffert. She has been very good in her 2 starts. I like the way she won at Churchill. She was 5th early. She was 4 off. She moved, she was on the inside, and then she angled out. She quickly angled out and got up to 2nd on the outside. She was just sitting in a perfect spot. It was a really big middle move, and it was just a very impressive win. She seems very handy, and I think she's a versatile filly who she could sit a little farther back if need be than what it looks like in the running line, because she was a little further back early on before kind of making that move and getting up the outside. I think it was just a good early move. Midnight Fantasy, another horse where I say no knocks, but this is just a much tougher group. All of the victories for Midnight Fantasy have been against Louisiana Bred Company. The first 3 victories have been against Louisiana Bred Company, and then we have a victory last out at Mahoning Valley. So we just don't know what level Midnight Fantasy is ready to take on. This is not a soft group. I think this is a pretty good little Miss Preakness, nice little grade 3 here for filly and mare 3-year-old sprinters. So we'll move on from the 8th race, but the number 10 Bye Bye Jay, we'll bet that one to win anything over 5-1, and the order of selections, 10, 11, 6, 2, 3 in the 8th. The 9th race, Pimlico Friday, the Hilltop. Start with a 1 from Mella. This is going to be a better spot for her. I think she has a big shot in here. She, if you go into her first start in the U.S. on March the 2nd, she had a slow start. She was last early at the rail. She kept to the inside. She split horses late to get up for 4th. Behind Cambier Park, who came back and was behind Newspaper of Record and Concrete Rose in the Edgewood. Not a bad animal, Cambier Park. And then in the April 7th race, Permella was bumped hard at the start, was wide into the first turn, and she faced a field that was not bad. It was a better than looked effort. She was behind Princess Crolin, who won an allowance next start out. Or Princess Carolyn, excuse me, who won an allowance next start out. Can't even read my own writing sometimes. The real wild card in the race, and the horse who I will never bet to win, but she's going to be hard to toss in exotics, right? I don't think you'll be able to keep a horse like this out of your exactas and your tries and your supers. Is Nova Soul, the 3-year-old filly, first time in the Chad Brown barn, and we know Chad Brown does so well with these acquisitions. She's lightly raced. She's done really nothing wrong in her 3 starts, where she's a winner with 2 top 3 finishes. Tough to keep her out. I don't love her. I have her in the 3rd spot here, but will be using in most of the exotics. Fashion Faux Pas, like the turf debut, but this race does look like another one that's going to have a lot of speed, in particular because some of these fillies are going long for the first time. Fashion Faux Pas has never gone longer than 7 furlongs, and now we'll try to do that. We'll have to deal with a horse like Cover Photo, and Cover Photo, right next door to Fashion Faux Pas, has some speed. We'll be stepping up big time for the first time, but we'll also be trying turf for the first time and be going over 6 furlongs for the first time. It's hard to use a horse who's doing that many things for the first time, but what I expect is that Cover Photo will probably show some of that speed and be a nuisance for a horse like Fashion Faux Pas. You get to Dog Tag, and you kind of scratch your head and you just go, wow, how many good horses does Chad Brown have, right? Because a horse like this, a filly like this, you almost forget about her. She's already a stakes winner. She's done nothing wrong in her short career. She's behind Newspaper of Record back in September. She's making her first start since September. Would she be a surprise? Of course not. I just like others more in here. She won't be one of my top 4. Dog Tag. Make Me Dream. That's the 6. She was early on, she was kind of trying to picking out a spot. She was too deep. She was 5th. She was just 3 off. I thought she ran pretty well. She was 2nd. It was her first start in a couple months. She was just a bit flat late. She had a little bit of a wide trip in a small field. I'm expecting a lot more punch late. Joel jumps aboard for Christophe Clement. Now they go second, start off the bench. I think you're going to get a big effort from Make Me Dream. The 7 is Ebullient. Made an early move up to the 2 path. And she had dead aim. Briefly took the lead, battled it out, lost by just the neck. It was a tough loss. And yet another one in a wide open race who wouldn't be a shock. So I think you can't bet them all, though. You can't use them all. Got to pick and choose. And always lean towards the horses who will probably offer you a little more value. Venetian Princess. You can toss the April 4th race at Gulfstream Park. That was in the slop. Just put a line through that one. On March the 9th, she was tucked in on the rail. She was in third. She was 5 behind the top 2. It was really a nice trip. A couple horses dueling up front. She got the setup. Now, does that mean she can't win this race? But a lot of times you don't get perfect setups in horse racing back to back. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you're able to work out your own trip, or you're able to create a good trip like that for yourself over and over. Introduced is another filly who she's never been past 6 furlongs. She's never been worse than second, but she's going to go farther now. She's going to step up, and she's going to have to deal with other early speed. I think she gets caught up in this early pace battle. Who you going to call? Ghostbusters 50-1 morning line on who you going to call. Just needs to show better. Her only victory was one where she was able to get an easy lead going 49 to the half mile at a mile. She just will not get away with anything like that in here. The top selection at a price. Her Royal Highness. This is a filly who has been pretty good from the beginning. Her first 3 starts were very good. Then in the Suncoast, she ran into a pretty tough group, and Point of Honor is a horse who I think is going to be really, really tough in the Black Eyed Susan a little later on when we get into race number 11. Her Royal Highness then tries the grass on March the 9th. Was in between, was about 5 lengths off, was fine, but then ended up losing position. It was weird. Everyone else started to move. She backed up, and then she comes running late. It was a weird ride. I didn't love it. Most recently, on April the 19th, she was 3 deep in a field of 5. She loomed up within a length at the top of the lane, but then she fades. The wide trip hurts her in a small field. You can't give up that kind of ground in a small field. There's something here with Her Royal Highness. And if she is double digits, 10-1 or over, probably worth a few bucks. And I'm also going to play a trifecta box in here. 1, 2, 6, 11. Generally, I don't like to box trifectas. I think there are better ways to play them, or when you're box 4 horses like this. But because we'll be using multiple prices and just wanting to it would be nice if we can get both of them in the mix somehow. We'll 1, 2, 6, 11. 11, 6, 2, 1. The top 4. Or a more first-time turf. I just don't think this is an easy spot to make your turf debut. If the race comes off the grass, maybe one to upgrade. And then the outside 2, I think will be hooked a little bit wide. I'm worried about Be Nimble because the running style, she's kind of in between. She wants to track, and that's the type of style that is the worst type to have drawn to the outside. You want to have speed, or you want to be the type of filly who you can take back and make one late run. I think she's going to get parked out wide. And then Super Escape, not really sure if she's good enough. She'll have to take a big step up off of her best career effort when she won on the grass last out. So 11, 6, 2, 1. Let's play a try box there. 1, 2, 6, 11. Race 9 at Pimlico. Race number 10 at Pimlico. The Pimlico Special. Glenn Ellis just spoke to on Facebook a few minutes ago. We were talking a little bit about the DQ going back and forth. I think he said they were going to scratch out of this race, so keep an eye on War Story if he's in or not. I'm going to play this as if he's not in the races, just reading that they had said they're going to be scratching out. Rally Cry will will take a lot of money. It's Pletcher. It's Johnny V. I'm against him. He's had a perfect third. He was just a length off. He was in the clear. He was pressing. He had no real challenge whatsoever. He was very flat late to run fourth in the Charlestown Classic. He hasn't been good in a while, since August of 2017 at Saratoga. He has a couple of big wins where he's earned big figures, but overall he's been very inconsistent, and I'm against him at a short price. The 3 is Flying the Flag. He's been improving, and he's in nice form in his last couple, but he went very slow in his most recent victory back in February. They went 25-1, 49-4 to the half. Last out, he sat second. He was within 2. He was chasing Stormy Bennett. He loomed up. He actually stuck his nose in front, but he could not finish the job. And it wasn't like he was coming off a 6-month break. He was coming off a 2-month break. Can he step forward a little bit? Yes. And this is not the strongest group in the world. It's a very deep race, because there are many horses in here who can jump up with a good effort on their best day, but you don't know when that best day is coming for most of them. They're just horses who have been picking up the pieces and like to pick up checks in big races. And so Flying the Flag is not really dealing with any monsters in here. The 4 is Carlino. Was outrun early. Was okay late. The race fell apart. It really set up for him. He was 4th in the Jockey Club. That was back in September. That was the last time we saw him. The barn has won with 2 of their last 4 off the plus 180-day layoff, but only 4 out of 44. So good in the most recent small sample size, but not one of the strengths of the barn overall. I think this is probably a nice setup race moving forward. I'd be surprised to see Carlino jump up with a win in here. The 5 is Heavy Roller. The issue I have with Heavy Roller, he's been very good since coming into the Joe Sharp barn. Always been a pretty consistent horse overall. This is going to be a solid step up in class for him. And his most recent successes, his 3 most recent victories, 3 of his last 4, but they've all been on an off track. So if there is an off track, you probably would like to upgrade Heavy Roller. You go back to the February 10th race, the 4th place finisher was Exclamation Point, who went on to win his next 2 and then was second in the Oaklawn Mile. So Heavy Roller's not coming out of bad races, but this is going to be tougher, and he's going to have to prove he can be as good on a fast track as he has been on an off track. The top selection coming up is the 6, Chord Maker. It just feels like a race to take a little bit of a shot. They don't love any of the horses who I think are going to take a lot of action in here. Now, Chord Maker, again, is another who I think 12 is too high. Probably 8 seems about fair. So that's the win wager line, around 8-1 on Chord Maker. Let's go through the last couple of Chord Maker's races. On February the 16th, was bumped around at the start, was back to last of 14, angled out 7 wide, and was not bad at all. And that was in the Grade 3 General George. And that was his first start as a 4-year-old. And so it looked like he improved a little bit. He grew up a little bit, and he wasn't bad as a 3-year-old. Then he comes back in his second start as a 4-year-old. And on March the 16th, he breaks well. He takes back, and he moved through very nicely to take the lead. He was drifting a bit late. Comes back on April the 25th. He's 5th, about 7-8 off. He's on the inside, and he makes a big 4-wide move and kicks clear. This is a horse who's in very nice form. He went 1 mile and 1/8, 2 back, and then cut back to 7 furlongs. He has shown the ability to really have a nice late kick. I think Chord Maker has a huge shot in here. He is the horse to bet at anything over 8-1. Just Whistle is the 7. Comes out of the Ben Ali, and he saved ground on the inside. He was 5 off. He was in the 5, 6, 7 spots. He was able to move to the two path. He was hard ridden early, and he was able to just pass some tiring horses late for an okay 4th. Not really a horse I'm too high on in here. Tenfold. He was your beaten favorite in the last 2 starts, and he's a horse who had good success at this racetrack. Perhaps his career best effort when 3rd in the Preakness behind Justify. I mean, there was a moment when I thought he was going to win that race. Last time out, I think you can put a line through it. Slop, never really got into it. We go back to March the 5th, and it was his first start of the year. He got up to third. He was within 2 lengths. He was sitting just off. He loomed up at the fairgrounds, and he just could not go by. But now he's going to make his third start off the bench, his third start of the year, his third start at 4. If there's improvement coming, it should be here. You don't want to take a short price on Tenfold, but if he's 6-1 on the morning line, if he's 5-1 or over, that's fine. You just don't want to take 3-1, 7-2, or anything lower on a horse because he's had a little success at Pimlico. Don't get caught up in there. But I do think he's a logical horse. I have him picked third. 6, 13, 8 for me in the 10th. Let's continue on through this field though. Unbridled won, consistent. He had a solid 2018, but I think he was clearly not as good as Cordmaker when they hooked up back in March. And he will need to improve on Cordmaker and others in here. It's not like Cordmaker is the logical favorite. He's a horse to bet, but he's not necessarily the one to beat. Bobby G, nice form, but really massive class hike for Bobby G, who was claimed for 5,000 back in February. Done a great job with him so far, but this is just a huge, huge step up in class. Flame Away is the 11. You know what you're going to get from Flame Away? Speed. He'll show some speed. I just think this is too far for him. I would not talk you off using Flame Away in, underneath 2, 3, 4 spots, but I don't think he wants to go 1.25 miles. He will be out on the front end. He'll be pushing it. Rally Cry won't be that far. Flying the Flag won't be too far. Carlino is going to be coming from the back. Heavy Roller will be kind of middle. So Flame Away will be the one to catch, but the real nuisance for Flame Away is going to be the horse drawn to his outside, I think. And that's Wait For It. And that's one of the reasons why, Flame Away going 1.25 miles where he's able to get the lead and cruise, maybe. But if he does have some speed right next to him and a couple others in here, that's where it's hard to play. Flame Away on the win end. So more of an underneath type. Wait For It. Feel sort of the same way. He's not. He can sit a little bit. Wait For It. He sat, in late 2018, but his best races in a race like this, you'd have to imagine they're going to try to get him forwardly placed early on. I feel like You're to Blame is probably the most likely winner of this race. I think he'll get bet down a little bit. Doesn't mean he's the best bet. I just think he's the most likely winner. He had to work hard, but he did get the W last time out. And I think that was just shorter than where he's best. The 1.25 miles is going to be great for him. He probably wants even more than 1.25 miles. And he was able to get the win going 1.16 miles last out. To me, he feels like the most consistent horse and a horse who's in the best form right now. He got his first start off the bench out of the way. He's now making his second start as a 5-year-old. And you look at a lot of the others and they're, Rally Cry, he's not in the best of form. Tenfold is a horse you're kind of taking a shot on. Flame Away. Can he go this far? I think the race really fits for You're to Blame. So to me, the 6 is the horse to bet. Cordmaker, You're to Blame is the horse to beat. And then the 8, Tenfold, also in the exotics. 6, 13, 8 in the 10th at Pimlico. Clubman to the outside just looks like a long shot. Not need to see more from him against this type of group. As you see, he was well beaten by Cordmaker when they faced each other at the end of 2018. And again, if you're getting crushed by Cordmaker, you're probably going to be in tough here in that this is, I have Cordmaker as my top pick. No knocks on Cordmaker, but this is just a step up for the horses who have been getting defeated by him. Handily defeated. The Black Eyed Susan, race number 11. Start with Sweet Diane from the inside. I would not talk you off her. She's coming into the Keneally barn for the first time. This barn does very well with their new acquisitions. She was in the Fairgrounds Oaks. She ran third that day. Serengeti Empress, who was last, came out of that race to win the Kentucky Oaks. We know Serengeti Empress had issues that day. Sweet Diane actually loomed up, quickly flattened out, but she was third. It wasn't bad. Thought it was an okay race from the inside. I have her picked fourth. The horse who I'm going to put on top in here is Off Topic. Saw some quotes from Todd Pletcher, how they're really high on this filly, and they've been expecting a little bit more from her. And I like the fact that you'll notice October, couple months off. December race, October races, couple months off. December races, couple months off. February races, couple months off. Comes back now. I think she should have a little more bottom today. I expect to see her have a little more oomph late. She broke well. She got crossed over on a bit, and then she had to take back to third. She was tucked inside. She continued to grind all the way, and I think that's what she'll keep doing is grinding. But I'm hoping she's able to be, a little bit more in the clear, not having to get shuffled from the inside. That might be a tough thing to ask, but that's why I think you'll get a nice price on her. So we'll be on Off Topic. 8-1 seems about fair. I wouldn't want to take less than 5 though on her. Eulalie, the 3. She flashed speed last time out, going gate to wire at Keeneland and winning. It was a good effort. The issue I don't know how much she really wants to pass horses going long. I think she is a filly who can win if she's able to get out front, dictate things, and with a horse like Cookie Dough right next door, I cannot see that happening. I think this race is going to have a good amount of speed signed up, right? You have to think so when Cookie Dough is pretty quick. Our Super Freak and Las Cetas are both pretty quick. And then you have a bunch of fillies in here who aren't slow, but they're just pressers, right? Cookie Dough, pace factor, but this just feels too far. She was very good in the Devona Dale, very good in the Gulfstream Park Oaks, but those are going a mile and 16th. She was, noticeably fading late, and she is a filly who wants and needs the lead, and I don't know if she will be able to slow things down enough to navigate the mile and 1/8. You have to give it up for our Super Freak for what she tried last time out. She had been getting defeated by Las Cetas, so instead of trying to sit behind Las Cetas and pass, our Super Freak and the connections and McCarthy said, you know what, let's try to get out in front of her. They battled all the way around, and they just missed. I mean, Las Cetas sat just off the Freak. Las Cetas, who was in the 2-path, moved to challenge for the lead at the half-mile pole and was about a half length up at the top of the lane, wins a stretch battle. It did not look like Las Cetas won. When you watch that race, our Super Freak battled so hard, really, really tried. All that being said, I don't really like either of them in here. I think that there are 3 or 4 pretty nice fillies in here. And so I think they might just be a cut below some of the top tier fillies in this spot. Always Shopping. They decided to pass on the Kentucky Oaks. She was good. She was always pressing just off the pace. She put away Positive Spirit. I really have no knocks on her. She's developing very, very nicely, and she is another who will probably be a little sharper late in here. So I think that the Pletchers are very, very live, obviously. Brill, I remember from Southern California, she broke her maiden last year and was so impressive. And she was one of those buzz horses at Del Mar and Saratoga, those ones that win early on. And you think that this might be the Kentucky Derby or Kentucky Oaks winner, but you remember that they were just very precocious early at 2, and it was only a 5 furlong race at Del Mar. We had really high hopes for her after that. And I mean, she's been disappointing. She has not won a race since. She is multiple graded stakes place though. Last out, she broke well. She sat second behind Motion Emotion. She was a couple lengths in front of Lady Apple, who was the eventual winner. Now, she tried to move early, but when she moved, she just could never get by Motion Emotion. It was a pretty good trip for Brill. I don't know if she's going to get a better trip than that. I don't know if she's going to want to go a mile and 1/8. I'm against Brill in here. Point of Honor looks like the one to beat. She was defeated when 4th. She was only beaten a couple lengths, though. in a race where she was just a little too far back, and the fillies in front of her were able to just get the jump. Point of Honor was in between horses. She was at the back of the pack. She was steadied a little bit early on. She closed well, and she was only beating a couple lengths, but she was just a little too far behind a couple nice horses who got the race shape and had the advantage over her there. She looks to me like the standout. She was on the also eligibles list. She did not get the draw into the Kentucky Oaks. I would have played her as a contender in the Oaks. And I think she's like logically the one to beat in here. If you don't get over the 5-1 on Off Topic, I probably won't bet Off Topic to win, but I do have this race 2-8-6-1. Off Topic, Point of Honor, Always Shopping, and Sweet Diane is the wild card if you're looking for a price to spice up some of those exotics. 12th race, won't spend a whole lot of time on this 12th race. I think it's going to be a heavy favorite. Some races, there are so many opportunities to bet, especially on a weekend like this. Don't feel the need to play every race or to play a lot in every race. Some races just look at and say, okay, I don't like this race, or I think it's going to be the heavy favorite. Let's just play it small, or let's just move on. I think that's the case with the 12th race. The 3, Bound for Nowhere, was scratched out of a race on Oaks Day for this spot. He can sit a little bit. He is the class of the field, and I think he is a standout and will be very, very tough. Now, Pure Sensation is no slouch. So I don't want to just completely discount Pure Sensation. He's an 11-time winner, and he's earned $1.5 million. But he is much the best on the lead, or very, very good on the lead. And I think there's so many others in here who want to be on the lead. So I'm expecting Bound for Nowhere to be just maybe a little behind them. And who knows with this 5 furlong turf sprint, sometimes you think the horse is going to sit and they all end up going and then, they take back. But the way I see this race unfolding, I think Bound for Nowhere is more likely to be able to sit, to take back, to track. He was defeated in a huge performance when he most recently lost. So let's just go Bound for Nowhere as a chalky, likely winner in a race where we won't bet a whole lot. Last race going to talk about today is the 13th, which is the Allure de Pont Distaff. This is a cool race because I think any of these can win, right? Let's go through the field, and I'll say this is a race where I would like to try to spread out maybe in the exotics, or this is a race where I think a lot of people will try to spread out in the exotics. So if you can go the other way and key in on a horse or two that you like, you may be able to get a little separation in a difficult race here in some of the multi-race exotics. Timeless Curl adds the blinks, put a line through her last start. That was on the grass. She was really good middle to end of 2018 into 2019. She actually beat a couple of these rivals in Another Broad and in Isotope. And she would not be a shock. I expect her to be a lot better getting back to the dirt. She's able to save the ground from the inside. And I don't think the 1.125 will be a problem for her. She hasn't proven herself going this far yet, but I don't think it should be an issue. The 2, My Miss Lily. We last saw her on April the 13th. It was a slow start. She got to the rail, and she was not in a great spot. She was behind horses. She was squeezed, kind of stuck at the back of the pack, surrounded on all sides. She really never had an opportunity, but she always seemed to have some run. She got an opening. She shot through that opening. She angled to the two path, but she was a little bit flat. She didn't stop. She just couldn't go with the top 2. I thought she was about to stop, and then she did keep coming. So I have 0 knocks on her. I just don't want to take a short price in a race that I think is wide open. That's going to be the real key to this race. Is in a race where you feel it's wide open, you have to demand value. So you have to look at this race and see who is the biggest overlay. What price should each of these horses be? My Miss Lily, I don't want her to be anything shorter than 3-1. 7-2 seems right. Geo Game, I liked her debut at 4. I think she has a big opportunity. And you never know with fillies like this or with horses like this, when they make their first start of the year from, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 2 to 3, have they grown up? Have they matured? Maybe they've figured things out a little bit. And Geo Game had some talent at 3. Liked her effort. She sat close. I'm not sure how far she wants to go. That's my one concern with her. And I think that was probably the reason why I ended up slotting her in the second spot instead of in the first spot. But could offer you nice. Anything over that 5 to 1 seems very fair. My lady, Curlin, looking for her third in a row. And this again, 0 knocks, right? She defeated Skeptic, and then you look up and you see last year Geo Game was behind Skeptic. Just another contender who has shown some versatility and the ability to win in different ways, right? I will not talk you off my lady Curlin, but I don't have her. I don't have her in my top 3. Top 4, really. Another broad. This will be the top selection. I think if you can get anything over 3 to 1 on another broad, this is the play in here. She waited at the rear. She was in the 2-path. She had to take up and she had to angle around, and then she ducks back to the inside. She finds a seam in between in the 2-path for a nice victory. I was going a mile and an eighth. That was just her second start. For Pletcher, she seems to be moving in the right direction and rapidly improving, and another step forward will make her very, very tough in here, and I will bet her to win at anything over 3 to 1. Golden Award scratched from Derby weekend, and I thought she was going to be a big player at a price on Derby weekend. She'll likely be much shorter in here, and I'm just a little concerned about taking a short price in a race where many of these on paper look pretty similar to me. She is capable of big performances, as we've seen. Her January race at Gulfstream was a nice one. But I think because of that big figure she earned, she's going to be a little overbet. Isotope rounds things out. She's probably the one who I like the least in this field. And, she's 12 to 1 in a field where everyone else is 10 or under. So, obviously, the longest shot in the group. But we'll play a trifecta. 5 over 1, 2, 3, 6, and the 5 to win at 3 to 1 in race number 13 at Pimlico. So just a couple wagers for you today here. We'll go back to race number 7. Let's play a pick 5 starting in race number 7, and we'll use that single of the 3 Chalone. Go to race number 8. We're going to use 2, 3, 6, 10, 11. Kofivi, Brunette Princess, Bye Bye Jay, Fighting Mad, and Kofivi, Brunette Princess, Never Enough Time, Bye Bye Jay, Fighting Mad. 1, 2, 6, 11 in the 9th. Primella, Nova Soul, Make Me Dream, Her Royal Highness. In the 10th, 6, 8, 13. Chord Maker, Tenfold, and 13. You're to Blame. Close things out with the 1, 2, close things out with the 1, 2, 6, 8. Sweet Diane, the 1, the 2 Off Topic, the 6 Always Shopping, and the 8 Point of Honor. And so if you want to play any of the other exotics, I figure I'll just give you that pick 5. You can, play pick 4s, pick 3s, however you want. We'll go to some of the individual wagers. In the 8th race, don't forget, the number 10, Bye Bye Jay, bet to win, anything over 5 to 1. In the 9th race, $1 try box, 1, 2, 6, 11. We'll use some prices in there with Primella and with Her Royal Highness. We'll hope to get those 2 and Make Me Dream home, and then we'll use Nova Soul in the mix with them. So those 4, box those up, 1, 2, 6, and 11. Go to the 13th race, that trifecta, the 5 with the 1, 2, 3, 6, and then you bet the 5 to win anything over 3 to 1. Could be a spot maybe to single in late exotics. You play 2 tickets, maybe you single the 5 in the 13th race, and then you play another ticket where you play all in that 13th race also in a wide open race. You could probably single in some of the late exotics with Bound for Nowhere and maybe Point of Honor in some of those previous races also if you're looking for like a short priced single. thank you very much for tuning in again. And I just have one request, if you can. Helps me out so much. Head on over to iTunes. If you have an iTunes account, it's free. If you don't and you subscribe and you sign up for one, you will not only get the opportunity to get subscribed to the That's What G Said podcast, you can get all sorts of content, movies, TV shows, videos, music, everything, obviously on iTunes. I need the 5-star ratings and reviews. Those help out our shows so much, and it can just help me continue to pump out free content, help me to grow the show, get more eyeballs and more ears listening to the show, and helps out with everything. So anytime you get an opportunity, if you can, head on over, leave a nice 5-star rating and review. Let them know what you like about the show. You just put some comments down in there. If I see them, I'll read the comments on the show. I'll give you a shout out and a big thank you. Follow on social media, and let's start getting a lot more involved on social media. Anytime you see a podcast posting, I want to know your thoughts on the Preakness card coming up over the weekend. So send in your Preakness selections. You'll be hearing another podcast from me. Another episode of That's What G Said will be coming out in just about 24 hours. So good luck, folks, on Friday, Pimlico, and enjoy the weekend. We'll be talking to you soon.